Hey folks, we got some exciting things to share you in this episode of Paperclips. New connectors for Adobe Document Services and Workfront Fusion. We'll have Sam Taylor join us from Workfront to tell us all about it. So with that, let's jump right in. Hello, everyone. I'm Ben Vanderberg, Principal Platform Evangelist for Adobe Document Services. Before we get in, I want to mention a few new news items that we have. In the last episode, we talked about some upcoming additions to our Microsoft Power Automate connector with new things with PDF properties and PDF extract actions. Well, fortunately, those are now available and you can get started using those today. If you want to learn more, there are some articles on Adobe Tech Blog. One article available right now is one on using PDF properties to detect PDFs that aren't optimized for accessibility. This is a really handy feature, and you can learn more about how to do that on there. There'll also be an upcoming article that is going to be coming soon, highlighting how you can use PDF extract to split PDFs based on data. For those of you who are interested in PDF extract service, there's also some other great articles on Adobe Tech Blog. My colleague, Ray Camden, has created a few articles to help you. There's a great article on integrating AI computer vision with PDF extract. So let's say you have PDFs with a bunch of images inside of them, and you want to use Vision API to understand what's inside of those images. Well, this article talks about that using Microsoft Vision API. It is a great example of how you can use that information and AI to really create greater meaning out of PDF content. For those of you who are Python developers, Ray has also wrote a new article on how to leverage PDF extract with Jupyter notebooks. Next month is going to be Adobe Summit, Adobe's digital experience conference. This year is online and free for everyone. So please jump on to learn more. It'll be from March 15th to March 17th with special guests, including Ryan Reynolds, Allison Phoenix, decorated US Olympian, and many others. We have a few sessions here also as well. My colleague Ray Camden is going to be talking about document generation and Acrobat Sign with Adobe Commerce, or formerly Magento. My colleague Wes Hopkins and I are going to be showing how you can use Adobe PDF Embed API along with Adobe Analytics to get viewing analytics on any of your PDFs in your report suites. And Wes and I will also be doing a session specifically on using Acrobat Sign and PDF services with Workfront Fusion. Specifically, how to take Workfront Fusion and the new connectors for PDF services and Acrobat Sign to streamline document workflows. So go check those out next month, and I hope to see you there in the sessions, which brings us to our main topic today, which is Workfront Fusion and Adobe PDF Services. So to learn more, there is an article that's going to be available on Adobe Tech Blog, and I'll talk about that at the very end. And along with that, we'll have some details over the coming weeks leading up to Adobe Summit on additional articles of how you can take advantage of Workfront Fusion, Adobe PDF Services, and Acrobat Sign. But joining us now, I'd like to introduce Sam Taylor. Sam is the product manager for Workfront Fusion and has joined me today to talk about all of this automation stuff. Sam, welcome to the show.
Hey, Ben, thank you very much. Great to be here.
So to get started today, many of our viewers are coming from different places, different angles. Some people are coming from the Adobe Acrobat side. Some people are coming from Creative Cloud. Some people are coming from the developer side. Help me understand a little bit more with Workfront. What is Workfront?
Sure. Yeah, so we like to think of Workfront as a work management system. And what that allows you to do is create an operational system of record, which gives you a comprehensive view of work across your organization. And I think a pretty easy way to start thinking about this is to think about our current common environment at a lot of businesses today, We work with fragmented systems. We work with systems that are not connected, that don't exchange data. We try and do actions and workflow that try and move across those systems, but we get held back by data that doesn't pass the boundaries of those systems, and maybe data that's missing and not brought together in a comprehensive view. So the hope with Workfront is that we can bring those items together, and we can bring together all those different systems. And once you bring those systems together, you can benefit in a lot of different ways. I mean, one is suddenly it's easier to capture your work and to make planning across those different systems. And it makes it very much easier to execute work and monitor work as it happens, make decisions that might change work and help you execute better. And then ultimately, if you do have a comprehensive work system of record, you're going to be able to do comprehensive reporting. So there's a lot of problems you get when you get big gaps in your project reporting and your task reporting, and being able to get those comprehensive records really makes people's ability to measure work a lot better.
Now, I know within our marketing organization here, one of the challenges that we run into is particularly all the different browser tabs that I have open in order to just maintain all the different systems. One for like tracking the project, another one for corresponding with like some of our partners, and more and more and more. And I always wish that they just all talk together. So help me understand a little bit more with Workfront. Is there something that can help kind of glue some of those different processes together and not make me have to deal with all these different fragmented systems that just I use every day to get my work done?
Oh yeah, so absolutely, and I think that's where we can also move in from Workfront to talking a little bit more about Fusion. So it's definitely the intent of Workfront to be able to capture all of those different systems and activities that the different teams are working on. And marketing is a really common example for us to work with marketing automation. One of the biggest challenges we've run into, and the reason for a product like Fusion, is that those systems are not always integrated and don't always talk well together. And we found that our customers were facing these situations where to capture that data, they would have to either program custom API integrations, or they would have to rely on plugins that tended to have narrow use cases and didn't really grow with the business and grow as quickly as the business. So we really needed is more of a platform idea and a platform of an automation tool like Fusion. Now, what Fusion is called is a low-code automation tool, and its intent is to be able to connect to all those third-party systems, be able to connect to Adobe systems, and bring in data and interact with Workfront, so that you can capture all that data, for reporting, but also that data can be used and spread out through all those different systems for more of your real-time execution work and other actions you need to do with work management.
Got it. So with all those different types of systems that Workfront Fusion can help kind of glue between, what are some of the connectors to those applications that I use every day?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to answer this, Open Fusion, we can start looking at that together. So when we talk about connectors to other systems, Fusion has a pretty comprehensive list. Now, we do have some Adobe ones, and we'll have the ability to highlight the Adobe Sign one later on. We also have an Adobe PDF one, PDF Services. But you'll notice some of the most common systems for people management, for product development, for document management, and for content management. And you also see really common suites: Google Suite, Office 365, Jira, Salesforce and other CRMs. And then systems like Slack used for communication. Those are pretty common for us to develop apps around. Those are all part of the connectors that are included in Fusion already and really and used by a lot of our customers. And then I do want to highlight too that Fusion can connect basically any web service So even if you're working with a system that's not on this list, you can use a little more code than a low code normally, but be able to connect to any standard REST API, especially, or even SOAP API for your automation.
All right, so I was on mute. My bad.
Oh, okay. Panicking over here, trying to figure out what was there. But what you said was brilliant. I could tell. Just.
Oh, of course. So my question was actually, with Workfront, you mentioned things like Slack and email and some of those communication methods. What are some examples of where that might tie into one of my workflows?
Oh yeah. So and I really like this topic actually, because one of the most valuable things for me with Workfront is when I want to plan my day, when I'm trying to see what work I want to actually spend time on and invest in, I want to know it's high priority work. The problem with Slack or email is it doesn't really come in a prioritized way. It doesn't come in the context of work, so I don't know what project it's related to. I don't know what SLAs it's related to. It really doesn't have any context. I was talking with somebody the other day, and I asked, well, how do you prioritize Slack? And they said alphabetically. And I think we all kind of do that. And that's nice for errands, but really bad for Zaps. And what's nice about a work intake capture use case, which Fusion is really good at, is you find whatever system work is coming in on, email, it could be a request, it could be a web form, Slack, any of those that it's coming in, make that your trigger event, your automation, and then find that context for that request, or maybe even create new data in the system. And then when you view it in Workfront, you know if that's your top priority for the day, or if that's a really low priority for your quarter or whatever. In that context, you can make much easier decisions, and you don't have the stress of having to reprioritize a whole bunch of unorganized work flying at you.
I think that brings up an interesting point, because what I've found, whether it's generationally or just how different people work, some people prefer to get like messages through Slacks. Other people like to get things through email. Other people, they like to log in and see things on a dashboard. And I know one of the problems that I run into is having to manage all those different people and all the different nuances of how each person works, which is always a chore. So why don't you walk us through a little bit of a demo of what this actually looks like? And I'd love to see, especially where PDF Services, because that's now available inside of there, Acrobat Sign, that's now available. Walk us through an example of how some of the stuff with Workfront Fusion works.
Absolutely. So with any business process automation, you're going to have a trigger event that's going to start things off. So with Fusion, we're using our visual design tool. We're going to start by selecting our trigger event. I'm going to select Workfront. We're going to pull in a document, and then we'll process it with PDF Services and Adobe Sign just to highlight the new app. So let's say in this case, we want to trigger off a new documents. We're going to get new documents in Workfront. Now with a trigger event, you could be working with either a scheduled one, which we'll do in this case just to highlight it, but you can also do real-time triggers, meaning as soon as a new piece of data comes in, it gets sent from that system into your Fusion automation. Now, one of the benefits here, we've talked a little bit about connectors, but haven't really explained why they're beneficial. What I'm doing is going through a pretty easy setup for what kind of data I want. So in this case, I want new document records, and I'm going to be able to select some information about the data that I want to see and interact with. And I don't have to know a lot about APIs to do this. So I'm not a programmer, and I don't really have to do any of that. I just need to know what outputs I want, the type of records I want. In other words, I need to be a subject matter expert, but more of a business analyst versus a developer. Now we are going to, in this case, we're going to process a couple of documents. And give me just one moment. This is kind of a cool feature in Fusion. Typically with these automation tools, you have to create new data to work with them. This is actually letting me pretend I'm going back in time to select data for my trigger event, and that just makes it easier for testing. There's actually a lot of tools that make it easier for testing in Fusion. So it makes it easier for us non-developers. Now, once we get our documents, we're going to download those. And a lot of what you have to do is map when you're doing a business process automation or an integration. Fusion allows you to do that through a visual tool here. This is your document. I'm just mapping my IDs, providing that there, click OK. And we'll also see here an example in a minute for being able to work with multiple, work with different fields where we can use that mapping panel again. Now, once we download the document, we're going to upload that to Adobe Sign, and then we're going to create an agreement process. So first thing I'm going to do is upload those documents. Okay.
And so we have connectors there for Acrobat Sign, and it's just a matter of like clicking the plus sign to just choose whatever it is that you want to do in there, kind of like what you do in the UI, but you're just adding as an action.
Yep, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And you know that this is much like the UI. You'll see a lot of similar terminology too. So when we set up a lot of our test cases to release this, we were able to do an action in the UI, and then we opened up these modules and just automated the same action.
I got it.
Now we want to create an agreement, and create an agreement gets its own module because there's a lot going on here with creating a new agreement. Now, first thing we're going to do, I've uploaded those documents. I'm going to map to say which files I want. That's if you're a little familiar with how the Acrobat Sign API works, is we are uploading this transient document. Give me 1 second. I just need to save to get some metadata in here.
Yeah, so the way that the it works with the Sign API is that when you pass it, all those different actions within the Sign UI, like you're uploading a file and create an agreement and all those types of things, those are actually separate actions from the API perspective, which is why they're separate actions inside of here, because there's a variety of different reasons why you might take one approach versus another, upload a file first and then send it later and things like that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And also, I think a place that we'll see people use PDF services as well to create that file. Now, I'm just going to do some mapping. You'll notice here, so not only am I going to map the this document ID, but if I want to replace the label, I can put it there. If I want to add notarize, and you'll recognize these from the interface as being options in there that we're automating. Now we can give our agreement a name. So I'm going to call it new agreement. And just to be sure it's unique, I'm going to add in a timestamp. And you'll notice that with Fusion, we're just able to map whatever inputs we want there. And it can be a lot of different transformations of string data. You work with mathematical data. You can work with conditional logic. Fusion can handle some really complex inputs. I'll add a simple participant set, but you'll notice you can do a lot with participants and really control that experience for people who are going to be signing. We're going to keep this pretty easy for our demo purposes.
And Sam, as you're doing that, one of the things that you and I were talking about the other day about this is that it's really a cool way to connect things, not just to Workfront, but a lot of the other connectors that are available. I think there's like 80 some connectors or something like that. So you can use that for things like Box or SharePoint or Salesforce or Dynamics and stuff. And the thing that I find really cool about that is that you can take that data from there so that it's automating all of those actions of inputting that information, so you're not having to do that manually.
Yeah, oh, you're exactly right. There is Fusion's birth, so to speak, was inspired by Workfront, but it is not tied to Workfront in a way that means you only have to use Workfront to integrate. Basically, when you're using a tool with this, you're getting the capability to integrate between any of these systems. And it's really going far beyond what a point-to-point integration could ever do.
So while we're on this, because I know we're going to hit up on time, I'm curious when we look at some of the PDF services actions as well. It looks like that you're running that right at the moment. So let me see if I can read this right. So when you're watching a record here, it's getting that file from Workfront, it's uploading that to Adobe Sign, and it's sending an agreement. So then looks like it's in process. Is it done now?
Yeah, it should be done by now. If I was to log into Document Cloud or Adobe Sign locally, I would get that. I would see that agreement was sent to me as the recipient.
Very cool. So what this is also doing is this is giving us all that information about the agreement as well as it's getting sent out. So I imagine that's also helpful for maybe updating records inside of Workfront and things like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So let's say that we wanted to send back something that said, yeah, Workfront was updated. We could come here and just connect that in here and add an update in Workfront. And we could say that was sent out for agreement. Be our update text.
Super cool.
So I was going to follow up on the PDF services for you real quick.
Yeah, please do.
So this is another app, and I just want to maybe highlight some of those capabilities you see here. This is basically full use of the API for PDF services. And we're also committed, and this is something a little bit unique for Adobe being the owner of Fusion, is we're committed to continually add capabilities as the API adds capabilities. So you can expect this app to increase in power and capability through, along with API. And another pretty neat thing here is when you set this up, you don't need, it's gonna put an example here. I don't need an account. Just by being a Workfront user, a Fusion user, you're able to add a connection that's basically a Fusion connection. You don't need an account to use it. So this is available right now to any Fusion users that want to be able to use it.
So what you're saying is that for Workfront Fusion customers and users, they get to use any of the PDF services as part of their subscription.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
So that's across all of the extract services, document generation, any of the PDF properties or PDF transformation. All of those are included, and you can just start using them today.
That's right. That's one thing we can happily say is made available by Workfront being part of the Adobe family now.
And we're really happy to all be part of the same family. What about for Acrobat Sign?
So Acrobat Sign will require a Sign account, and when you come in here, you will be prompted to enter in your account. Another thing that Fusion does that makes your life a lot easier for integrations is it manages these connections. If you've ever done an integration and had to handle the authentication between a system and make sure that all that's happening securely, that can be a little bit of a pain. Fusion handles that pretty well for you. All you have to do is be able to sign in to create that account. And for those of you who maybe haven't had a Sign account yet, you'll notice there's a free trial, and you can use a lot of these capabilities. And I can almost promise you want to buy an account after that for your own organization.
Yeah, this management of the different connections is a huge time saver when it comes to integration, because I don't know about you, but I know sometimes making OAuth connections within custom applications can be a little bit of a pain in the butt.
Yeah, not something you would do for fun, typically.
Yeah. So help me understand a little bit more, like what are some of the use cases where someone would really get the most out of Workfront Fusion?
There are so many at an organization. I think one of the big challenges is figuring out which ones to prioritize that are a little bit easier fits for automation that people can benefit from. So the first thing I would look at is work intake. So we mentioned earlier email or Slack messages coming in as sort of unplanned, disorganized work requests. Turning those into actual requests that are planned and associated with a portfolio and assigned to a team, all of those things that make it a little more meaningful in the work context. Those are great targets for automation. And another thing to think about when you start targeting those is, do the intake portion automate like that, bringing it into Workfront and adding it to the work context. But then ask yourself, can we actually automate the work without and not require a person at all for it? So, for example, in Fusion, I had this issue where people needed account changes, and we would get emails that would ask us, "Hey, can you change our Fusion account owner?" We actually replaced that with a web form, so people would go in and request an account change. We would go through, validate that they could do that account change, and then we automated changing the account. So we moved from a process that was like an email, and then I would go manually check a CRM, and then I would have to go into a system and manually update an account. We automated the whole thing top to bottom. And you can do that through a maturation process too. Yeah, so I would start with a lot of work intakes. With the Adobe Sign, I'd go around your organization and look for stacks of paper. Wherever you're developing these stacks of paper that people have to sign and you have to manage folders, ask yourself if you can get rid of that. Replace it with e-signature and then build the business process around it with Workfront Fusion.
In some respects, I could see it as the paper, the physical paper, but I could also see it as, look at some of those emails and some of those types of things where you're emailing back and forth those PDFs. And that could create a lot of churn and inefficiency, or the things where the walking around. Look at people who are spending all that time in Word, manually creating like those SOWs, those change controls, statements of work, that you could push that information into those documents automatically and have those automated types of systems.
That is a really great point. I will tell you, one of the most powerful capabilities that I've noticed from this PDF services is the generate document. We had a customer who wanted to do an automatic project status report. So they were pulling a bunch of data from their project, and they wanted to put it in a nice format to send out to stakeholders. They can now automate that completely using this generate document endpoint.
Yeah, it's really, really a cool combination. And in fact, that's actually something that we're going to be highlighting in our session at Adobe Summit on digital transformation. So it's definitely something to go check out there if you want to dive a little bit more into that. And we're going to have some blog posts where we're going to specifically touch in on that. Now, I know that we're getting to the end of our time. So I was curious, a couple of quick things, a couple of questions. One was, now, how does this work from like a cost-wise? Is this something that it's based on actions or runs or things like that? Or is it just part of your Workfront subscription type of thing?
It's best to think of it as an add-on for Workfront. And there's two levels. One, you can simply do automations with the Workfront app. So even though we've talked about integrating, it's really common for people just to work with a single application and automate what it does. And if you just want to do Workfront automation, there's a tier for that. It's just called automation. Although most of our customers do what's called automation and integration, which is the access to all the apps and the universal apps, so you can connect to any number of systems. Other than that, Fusion is licensed by the number of active scenarios. So this is a scenario I'm looking at. You can think of it as a discrete business use case that's live. You get a certain amount with each of those licenses. You can buy extra as you need it. The number of operations, we actually don't charge by that or by the size of data that you're pushing through. So we have people who are putting in tens of thousands of transactions in an hour, and that's the same license price. One reason for doing that is we typically work with enterprise customers, and they need predictability for their budget. They don't want to get a bill at the end of the month that nobody understood was in budget or out of budget, right? So
That's so
sort of a
true.
simpler license option.
So Sam, thank you so much for jumping on and walking us through that. I'm really excited to see where not only this goes with PDF services, with Acrobat Sign, but also just as a product. I love the simplicity of it. I love the drag and drop aspect of it. This is some really exciting stuff. So thank you so much for walking through it with us.
Oh, thank you. We really appreciate it. We hope to visit again as we come up with new features and capabilities.
Oh, well, you're absolutely welcome back to tell us some of the new and cool stuff on a future episode. You're always welcome. So thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Ben. Take care.
All right. So as we wrap up today, there are a couple of things that I just want to mention. Again, come to Adobe Summit, where we're going to be showing some of the latest and greatest things. We have a session on Workfront Fusion and using that with PDF services. Sam also has a session talking about Workfront Fusion as a whole, which is a great one to go check out. There's ones on Adobe Commerce and document generation. There's one on PDF Embed and Adobe Analytics. So go ahead. We'll see you there on the 15th through the 17th of March. Look forward to seeing that. If you want to learn more also about Adobe Document Services, head on over to our website, developer.adobe.com/document services, where you can learn more about all of the different automation services that are available. So with that, thank you so much for coming to the session today. I hope this was really helpful for you to learn all the cool ways that you can take advantage of document services, Acrobat Sign, Workfront Fusion for document automation. Have a wonderful day.